So good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is well. I'm going to pick up on chapter 12 here again, and for part two, and I want to talk about CDOs, otherwise known as collateralized debt obligations, which were a big reason as to why we had a problem in 2008. So what people did, what bankers and financial experts, so to speak, experts, right, did was they created a CDO by taking these what's called a special purpose vehicle, and it's a corporation that's created to do all these buyings, right? And they just simply buy up a collection of assets, bonds, loans, and all kinds of stuff. And you can see mortgage-backed securities. And then they make sure that the rating agencies are in collusion with them, and they rate them, AAA, even though a lot of them are junk. And then they basically take these special purpose vehicle, and this company here, which is an SPV, takes these payment streams, and then basically will separate them into cash flows and pay out. So people would buy CDOs and get paid on them, and then a lot of people lost their shirt on them. All right, so basically, you notice it says here the highest rated tranches, uh, and a lot of that was, fake. They really weren't. They were just rated high. And then there was the lower rated tranches. So you can see if the underlying assets go into default for the lowest rated tranches, and they stop making payments, basically it'll default, right? So basically they simply were taking these tranches, and a lot of these were not really what they was set out to be. So here's the infamous global financial crisis of 2007 through 9, which I lost a lot of. I lost like 300,000 on, and basically everyone had the impression housing prices always go up, but a long decline began in 2006. And this decline in housing prices contributes to a rise in defaults on mortgages. People can't pay their mortgages, right? I said they had $500,000 mortgages and they were making $40,000 a year. They were being sold a bill of goods by the brokers. Oh, you could afford it. You can afford it. And as these mortgages were being defaulted, basically banks who gave them out, their balance sheet really started to suffer. And it basically it became a globalized thing because of globalization today. It spread to all over the world. And basically the euro dollar treasury spread here increased because interest rates, right? Because basically euro dollars went up tremendously. So, the cost of money really went up. So everything started getting written down, and then all the banks went under. Bear Stearns went under, and Lehman Brothers. I think Bear Stearns was sold to Merrill Lynch, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, there was a huge disaster. Now, companies wouldn't lend other companies money. The commercial paper market really took a hit because companies were afraid to lend anybody else money. Basically, as capital dried up, and cash dried up, which is why the Federal Reserve had to come up with the TOP program. And there was a big discussion about the bailouts. How should we do bailouts? And but it did pass eventually. I guess it was about what, about almost 800 billion to get the country back. And so here's the interesting curve on housing prices. And here we are right at the peak. This is when I bought my condo, by the way. I had moved into a condo, right? And I bought it right here. And the woman who I sold it from was happy, right? Little did I know that I thought it would keep going. That little did I know I was in for a ride. And I think still today, after 13 years, I'm not liquid. Even though I don't have a mortgage anymore, I don't think I'll ever get what I paid for it. So this is an interesting thing. This is the Case-Shiller index for housing prices. This is a good thing to look at and watch. So you can look at this. So you can see here how housing prices had dropped by like 30% here. And of course, here's the stock market, right? So here's the peak of the market, and then boom, it fell off a cliff. It was scary times back then, real scary. Okay, well, some people some people have blamed the Federal Reserve for this whole thing. And interest rates were low, and everybody was taking mortgages, and anybody was being given out of greed. People were given mortgages, and it was just a sad scenario here, and nothing you can do about it. But anyway, all right, so. There was a lot of blame to go around, So there was a lot of blame that went around on this whole thing. All right, so Bernanke was in charge, and he had to basically do something to get the economy stimulated again. And he says it wasn't the Fed; it was these new underground mortgage products that they came up with all these interesting ways of financing houses. And again, it was the brokers who were giving, the banks who were giving mortgages to people who didn't deserve them. So that's the whole story with that. That was that whole story. I believe it was just greed on the part of the lenders that brought the whole housing market down. As soon as interest rates went up, these people couldn't pay. All right, so this thing spreads worldwide, and there was a fear of government defaults, and interest rates, in Europe shot up. Anyway, as the stock market, continued to crash, so this is a nice history. And of course, interest rates, had shot up. Consumer spending kicked off. The unemployment got huge. There was nothing you can really do about that. And here you can see the credit spreads. This is junk bonds, BAA, and U.S. Treasuries. So you can see the spread here was always over 6% between good and bad, rated bonds. Treasuries were safe, right? But here was the junk, BAA rated. You can see that right there. So the TARP program, as I mentioned, comes in, right? The Troubled Asset Relief Program, and $700 to $800 billion was came in, and TARP basically bought up all the bad subprime mortgages. And they make comparisons with this compared to the other Great Depression in 1930 in the 30s. So they came up. The Dodd-Frank Act came in. There's still argument, and that was changed. I believe they said it was too much regulation, right? So basically, things are, to be honest with you, things are not rosy again now. I think people are forgetting the past again, and things are happening this way again. So people are worried there's going to be another one soon, because those who don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So again, they had to bail the banks out, and they think there's a moral hazard here because too big to fail. And banks will always be too big to fail, and they'll always have to be bailed out. All right, so there's basically some issues here for future regulation, and whether derivatives trading, which was really one of the real problems, right? That caused a lot of this. And then there's always, again, even now there's a question about over-regulation. And somehow we have to rein in the credit agencies from being in cahoots and playing games. All right, so I'll leave this here and I'll pick up on part 3. Everyone have a good one.